I will introduce the theoretical framework for digitalization. Here is the overview of my part of this presentation. So we will zoom into the role of the managing authorities and evaluators at the bottom. What are the key considerations? But before that, we will start with the general role of digitalization, the role that it plays in policies, and the role it plays in interventions for the CAP strategic plans. Okay, this is maybe a little bit complex and overwhelming picture, but it basically summarizes already what I will tell in the next slides. But central is this this cyber-physical management cycle that you see in the middle, and you have to imagine that you can apply that to the whole food supply chain as it is pictured in the center of this figure, from farm to fork. So it exists of three phases, this cycle. First of all, you see that there are all kind of smart sensing and monitoring devices increasingly being introduced into agri-food with satellite data or sensors more in the field or in the greenhouse, etc. But also in the supply chain, all kind of sensors in logistic processes, for example. These deliver a lot of digital data that can be used for smart analysis and planning, which is the second step in this cycle. And that should result into what you call actionable management. So actions that you can apply. And that's actually going to the third step in this cycle, the smart control. And it is pictured over there, this robot arm indicates also that increasingly all these machines that are being used to manage all kind of processes within the whole food supply chain are also increasingly becoming smart, containing all kind of sensing devices and measuring a lot of things. So that results again in a lot of data. So that's going back to the first step, sensing and monitoring, where you can evaluate what you did as a decision maker. So that's what is indicated also by number one. So the cyber-physical management cycle can be applied, first of all, to decision making for businesses like farmers, but also other businesses within the whole supply chain, but also in the end consumers that also use basically the cycle to make decisions on what food to buy. Then if you think of all the data that is being produced and that you can share throughout the whole supply chain, you can also use that for food integrity issues. So where does my food come from? How is it produced? Is it sustainable? Is it 100% organic or not? So that is the second area where all these digital data can play a role. And then I think the third area is the most important for this context for today. That you can also use these digital data for public decision making, for example, on food safety or environmental policies or nutrition, health, those kind of topics. I usually say that until now, a lot of this decision making is based on censuses or surveys that are separated from this whole practical situation of digital data that is being produced by the supply chain. But increasingly, you see that also this real-time information from the supply chain can be used also for public decision making. And then finally, the fourth area is science and technology. So here's a kind of mutual relationship, actually. So a lot of these technologies like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, blockchain technologies are actually drivers of this whole digitalization. But increasingly their development also depends on the data that's being produced in the whole supply chain. So I always say big data analytics, what you see, cannot be further developed without big data. So instead of having a small experiment at an experimental field or in the laboratory, we need to plug in as researchers also into these digital data that is being produced over here. So the key message is that increasingly the whole agri-food supply chain is increasingly being digitalized, and you can use the same data for different purposes. So we will briefly go through the whole supply chain using the value chain view of Porter. So you can distinguish upstream and on-farm operations, and I already explained a little bit about that, but also these downstream operations. And we should also not forget about the support operations that you see here at the bottom, on kind of advisory services or farm management information systems that are increasingly being professionalized and becoming more and more important. But also the third area, what you see, rural infrastructure and services, broadband connectivity, and those kind of things are also very important. We should realize that this infrastructure development is not only benefiting farming or agricultural processes, but it is also important for other services for the rural communities, like access to healthcare or to education and those kind of services. So looking at the upstream operations, here are several examples of decisions that can be supported. So you can think about what inputs that you can purchase and in what quantities, to schedule all kind of operations, to do inventory management and storage management, but also inbound logistics and delivery scheduling. And that creates also all kind of value and in economic sense. So you can lower risks or minimize storage losses or other things, resulting in lower costs, but also environmental value that's being created by better resource allocation and reduced waste, so that you have a smaller environmental footprint. And here you see that this is relevant for the evaluation when we think of more sustainable production that directly contributes to specific objectives 2, 4, and 5. So if we look at the on-farm operations, you can think of all kind of decisions. I already explained that, using these smart devices, how can you apply nutrients or pesticides in a more efficient way, and also how to allocate resources in terms of labor and machinery. So all kind of management actions can be supported on irrigation or health of your livestock, etc., etc. And here you can also think of value that is being created, and in economic sense, better informed decisions, improved resource efficiency, resulting in increased output, lower costs and higher margins. But also environmentally, there are all kind of additional values that can be created, resulting in smaller environmental footprints. And last but not least, also social value by creating more safer work conditions, but also improving mental health, for example. And this is also, again, relevant for specific objectives 2, 4, and 5, but you can also relate this now to a specific objective 8. So when we look at the downstream operations, so further into the value chain, you can also think of decisions that can be supported by these digital data on where and to whom sell products, or to price products, or how to match supply with consumer demand, but also more logistic operations like storage and handling produce, inventory management, and traceability, recording. And here also quite some economic value can be created by improved farm gate prices, reduced transaction costs, all resulting into lower costs and higher margins. And this is also relevant for specific objective 2, increasing competitiveness. Yes. Yeah, to the supporting operations, the lower block that you saw in one of the previous slides. So you can use these digitalization for supporting your decisions on what practices to adopt, how to optimize your farm performance, or to manage the farm sustainability. But also when you think about the smart control, which was in the cyber physical management cycle, to do record keeping for compliance, to support and to simplify also administrative processes, and to use it also for data sharing across the whole value chain. And here again, a lot of value can be created in economic terms by lower compliance costs, environmental value by traceability of environmental practices, but also socially more inclusive growth of rural areas. And this is also relevant for the evaluation. As you can see, it contributes again to 2, 4, and 5 specific objectives, but also 6. And again, inclusive growth of rural areas contributing to specific objective 8. So already some years ago, the European Commission introduced this Digital Decade program with 4 basic assets that we should try to improve. So as you can see over here, these are digital skills, and you see also the targets that are set for that, digital infrastructure, digital businesses, and also digital public services. And we can use this as a very nice framework for evaluation, as is shown on the next slide. So in the report, we try to identify also all kind of enablers and drivers of digitalization, but also at the right side, all kind of barriers. And I don't go into the details, but as you can see, they can be connected by these with these digital decade funding solutions. So these are a good policy instrument that we can use to work on this, but also to evaluate this. So you can understand the role of these policies and try to identify the outcomes, but also to assess the effectiveness, the targets, to assess the magnitude of the effect of the CAP support. So yeah, I'm already at the end. I see also perfectly in time. So the key takeaways from this theoretical framework is that you see that digitalization can play an important role in all segments of the value chain, from farm to fork, and contribute to several specific objectives of the CAP. And the CAP can also contribute to foster digitalization connected to these digital decade cardinal points that can be useful in understanding also this contribution. And there is a dual relevance for evaluation. So it can support the CAP contribution to foster digitalization, but it can also contribute to digitalization towards the achievement of specific objectives of the CAP strategic plans.